Your craft supplies are keeping secrets. Let me show you some ways to unlock them. Let's start with this cover plate die from Catherine Pooler. It's got a fun mod feel to it, and you can use it as a full panel or you can cut it down to suit your card. I like to use circles on square cards, so I trimmed this with a big circle die along with a solid circle to act as a backer. White on white could be a fun way to add some interest to a background with a strong focal image, but I want this background to be the star of my card. So I blended some ink over it in some cool colors, and you'll notice that I'm also blending ink over the little circle offcuts as well. That's the secret that this cover plate has been keeping. All those circles can be used to create a whole other card. To finish my first card, I added my circle to a 4 1/4 inch square card base with a black panel. I added a black strip to help my sentiment stand out and some gems on either side. Now let's go back to that secret card. After adding a first layer of ink to the circles, I did one of my favorite little tricks to add some interest, and I masked them off and added a second layer of the same color. This will give the look of dimension to these dots, but it'll be more subtle than if I had used darker shades of the inks. To finish this one, I popped up the dots at the bottom of a card panel, moving the two-tone lines around so they weren't all in the same position. I added a stacked up bouncy happy birthday sentiment and a couple of gems. Using these secret pieces is a great way to get 2-for-1 designs and feel less guilty about throwing away any little offcuts. I love using circles in my designs, and I have a lot of dies that have this circle secret. I keep the cutout dots in a little plastic envelope, and I keep a list of where all my dies with circles are in case I'm ever looking for a dot of a certain size to use on a card. Next up is this waffle flower radiating circle frame die. This can be used on its own just like this, or you can use another circle die and cut out the center. What you have now is a true frame or a wreath kind of shape, but you also have a panel with a circle window cut out of it and a smaller circle to act as your sentiment. So let's start with the first card. I love the look of inlaid die cuts, so I want to put all those little pieces back into the frame, and that's another way to get a different look from this die. First, I want to add some color. I'm using some of the Lisa Horton interference ink that I bought earlier this year. These are really neat because they show differently on white or black cardstock. The lid tells you what color you get on white on the left and then on black on the right. I chose 3 colors that will be kind of beachy on white cardstock, kind of a sand and then 2 greeny blues. Now I know there's 48 of these little suckers. I counted them once ages ago, and I wrote it down in my pocket so I wouldn't have to count again. 48's a nice number because it's divisible by 2, 3, 4, 6, and 8, so you can choose color combinations with lots of different numbers of colors. I have 3 colors, so I put them in groups of 16 and then I blended my colors on. These inks have a ton of shimmer in them and they're almost metallic, but they dry super fast so you don't have to worry about smudging them. I find the easiest way to do inlay is to have a backing piece that's sticky. In the frame's original shape, I would be able to use a circle die cut to do that. But since the middle's now missing, I cut a little circle frame with 2 nesting dies, and I put glue all over the front of that before putting it behind the frame. And then it was just a matter of putting all those little pieces back in. Since I have the pieces separated by color, I just counted and put all of the pieces of each color in at once. I realized as I worked that my little backer frame was really too thin to hold the pieces in place securely. So once I did a little inspection and shifted a couple of the pieces a little bit to fit properly in their spots, I went back and I used 2 nesting circles to cut another frame of white cardstock that could fit perfectly around the backer frame that was already there. To finish this one, I popped up my frame on a white panel with some foam tape and I stamped a little waffle flower hello. I added a lot of gems with a totally random spacing to give the look of a faux shaker. That's why so many of them are near the bottom. That's where they would fall if you were displaying the card. So let's go back to the 2 pieces I had left and make the second secret card. I wanted to blend these inks to get the look of a beach, and I have 4 little tips for creating something that looks like a beach rather than a horizon with a sky. Number 1, make your line tilted, not horizontal. Your eye will not like the idea of a sky on a tilt, so it won't believe that the water is a sky. Number 2, don't make the line between the sand and the water straight. Again, your eye thinks the horizon is a straight line. Number 3, don't make your blending even. That's pretty easy with these inks. As I said earlier, they dry fast on this paper, so you don't get a lot of time to spread them evenly, and a rougher texture is perfect for sand and water with movement. Number 4, use multiple colors of blue for the water and go on the greeny side of blue. Number 5, fade your uneven blending out to white in between the edge of the sand and the ocean. This looks like kind of that white froth from the waves. I kept checking with my window panel to be sure I had enough coverage, and I just kept working until it was all filled in. To finish this one, I popped up that window panel, added a sunny waffle flower sentiment to the other circle offcut, and I added a few gems. The third type of die with a secret is these etcher kind of dies. This is a scallop from an old die set from Pretty Pink Posh, and if you place it carefully so that the bottom edge of the die is on the edge of your card base, and so that it's centered, that when you cut it out, not only do you get the stitch shape of the die cut, but you get a card with a pretty scalloped edge. So for my first card, I kept it pretty simple, and I swanked 2 different inks onto the die cut, Rocking Red and Flirty Fuchsia. This will give me kind of a rich, deep berry color, and it's a great way to get more from your inks. Just create your own colors, rather than looking to buy every color that somebody makes. And by stamping your sentiment with the same 2 colors, you'll get the matching color again. You'll definitely want a stamp positioner for that. I chose a couple of sentiments that had shapes that would work with that shape of the scallop. I popped up the scallop on a smaller panel, and I kept the 2 ends and added them back directly on the card base for a continuous look. I finished with some honey gold dots that I had cut with a polka dot cover plate. Now let's move on to the card using the secret scalloped edge. But wait, there's one more secret from this die. If you cut it from the edge of a panel like this, and then flip it over and line it up carefully and cut it again, then you'll end up with a die cut piece like this. Pretty cool, right? There's a number of ways to add this bubble strip to the card to create a layered scallop look either in front of or behind the front of the card. But I also want to show you that this ink mixing that I did for the last card, which works with swinking and stamping, also works with blending. When you're blending directly on a card base, the challenge is always to make sure you don't get the ink on the back of the card, and a grip mat works well for that. But it doesn't work as well for blending brushes, especially the larger ones. The bristles get kind of gripped by the grip mat, so I thought about how I could make that easier. I cleaned my grip mat and then I put down another piece of cardstock. That way my card is being held in place by the grip mat, and so is the extra piece of cardstock, but my brush can move easily from the extra card to the card itself. And by blending some of the red and then some of the fuchsia, I'm getting that same kind of berry color and in a lighter value. As I say, this is a great way to create custom colors for your card making, and it can be used for your full card. It doesn't have to just be the area where the 2 colors combine, like we're more used to seeing when we blend a panel. Like here, when I'm blending the fuchsia on one side of the bubble strip and then the red on the other, wherever they meet up, we would get the berry as a transition color. Well, I decided I wanted to make the transition color my feature color. I hope I finally managed to explain that so you can understand it. I ended up going over this whole thing with both colors for a pretty solid look, although not quite as dark as what I got with this swinking. To finish this one, I ended up putting the bubble panel right over the white scalloped edge on the front of the card. I added a stacked up Hero Words Happy cut from honey gold, stamped a birthday with both colors just like the previous card, and then I added a few gems. Now there's a slight technical error with this card because it won't actually stand because of the short edge on the front. So I've got 3 ideas for solving that. Number 1, turn the card so it opens from the side. It's too late for me because I've already glued that happy down. Number 2, trim off the card front and add it to another card. Or number 3, put a panel of acetate behind the card front so you can still see the blending on the inside of the card, but the front panel will be a full square and it can stand. Which one would you do? Alphabet dies also have secrets. I did a deep dive on these a little while ago, so I hope you'll check out to see how you can make more than words with these sets that are, let's face it, an investment. And now, I challenge you to go make your dies tell you their secrets. Let me know what you find out. Thanks so much for watching. See you next time.